Good evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling, insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. And it's Wednesday. You know what that means. It means we are previewing tonight's edition of AEW Dynamite. And it's a special Wednesday because it is winter is coming. It's a stacked Dynamite card. I, for one, am hyped. But not just because of the show we're going to have tonight, but also because we have this brilliant panel joining me today. And let's kick things off with the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. Clark, how are you doing this Wednesday?
Good afternoon, everyone from Southern California. I'm sorry, I was going to try to do the whole bit, but all love, Ben. I'm so stoked to be here with you, with the rest of the crew, who I'm going to let you introduce. I'm not going to jump in on your introduction, but it is Wednesday, and I know what that means. You know I love AEW Dynamite. I cannot wait to get into it. I'm stoked to be here, as always. It was a fun day yesterday on Off the Air and the daily broadcast, but it's always good to have the big boss back. And we've got a wicked crew who I think the last time these four were in the same place at the same time, it might have been on a concourse at Ring of Honor at the Galen Center at a university in which one of the two actually graduated from.
I wonder who else was on that concourse at the same time doing what. But we've also got a comment here from Bobby Petito saying, hello, guys. Hello, Bobby. How are you today? I hope you are well. But also, we have the man who goes by many names right now. I think he's known as Carter Crisp. Carter, how are you today?
Ben, I'm doing good. I think he's talking about me because I went to USC. I've been watching lots and lots against my cousin's Will. Deathmatch wrestling, and I'm excited to get onto some real stuff. I think Dynamite's going to be fire. Sorry for slapping the table. Clark's Girls Nikita's back, and wrestling's on fire. Let's go.
Absolutely. And do you know who else is back in the comments? Anthony Manzano. Hello, Anthony. Have a good day today. But last but certainly not least, we have Soul. Soul, how are you today?
What's happening, folks, as well from the 2 degrees here in Scotland, because it is winter indeed. Winter has arrived. But obviously, you know, Wrestling Public Universe, it's good to see you guys again for my suit that smells like expensive cologne and whiskey. So I'm ready to talk about my favorite wrestling promotion, because it is Wednesday Night Dynamite. I would say the best, but I think the Wrestling Public's Universe might not like me saying that. Why? I wonder why.
The timing of the opening of that can I love, by the way. That was perfect, Soul. But AEW Dynamite being the best show, it's definitely a controversial take. I mean, it's definitely up there. I don't think anybody will disagree with it being, you know, in that conversation. But let's jump right into things by talking about the Continental Classic, the round-robin tournament that AEW has been doing the last few weeks. And today we have a big match in this tournament because we have got Swerve Strickland facing off against Jon Moxley. And this is one which is quite important because currently Jon Moxley and Swerve Strickland are tied at the top of the Gold League. And listen, if it's a draw, if either of them win today, they have qualified. They have qualified for the semi-finals of it in a couple of weeks' time on Dynamite. But if it's a draw, or you know, either of them lose, well, then that muddies things because we have Jay White, who we'll talk about later on, who still very much has a chance. And if it's a draw, then so does Roosh. This one is going to be very interesting, and I am excited for it. Clark, what is your prediction? Who will win, Swerve Strickland or Jon Moxley?
This, in my eyes, is not just a match. It's a fight. Both men. We know what Mox brings to the table, and we've known it for a long time. It's time for a little bit of a Mox resurgence. He's shown it in this tournament. I think that's one of the smaller storylines we actually haven't discussed as much as some other things and other narratives that have been involved, whether it be inside of the context of the tournament itself or outside of that context, criticizing the layout of the tournament. We haven't really touched on the fact that Moxley has looked sublime in his matches, and not only that, won mostly pretty dang dominantly in a few of them. Swerve Strickland is, speaking of firing on all cylinders, you can't even make it up. Swerve Strickland has made the biggest move, and I'll make this claim right this second, the biggest move in wrestling over the last calendar year, so 12 months from right now till December 13th, 2022. He has made the biggest move upward of anyone in the entire business. Not necessarily that he's elevated himself to the very, very top. You know, you could talk about other wrestlers that have, you know, gained ground in certain senses, but moved from a position where he was in to a higher one. No one's passed more people. No one's looked brighter. No star has elevated themselves in the way, broken out, for lack of a better way to put it, broken out even further than expected than Swerve Strickland. This match is going to be a banger, and I believe it. It's time for the draw. I hate to be that guy to say that. I'd love to make a pick, but it's absolutely time for the draw right now. And I want it to be close. What I really want to happen is 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 0. But Swerve hits that Swerve stomp on Moxley and had him. If it's 20 minutes and 1 second, Swerve Strickland wins this match. Otherwise, it is a draw in my eyes, and that's my prediction.
Well, firstly, I undoubtedly agree with you that Swerve Strickland, I mean, he had obviously broken out before, but his real breakout year in terms of, card placement has been this year. He has, he's gone from a lower mid-card guy to a main event guy this calendar year. Undoubtedly agree with you on that one, Clark. But in terms
he went
of
from want to must watch. That's the way I would quantify it in my eyes. He went from
fair enough.
Must watch.
Yeah. No, that is a great take. But there's currently for me, there's two ways of looking at this situation, right? One way is that, okay, Swerve Moxley will be the final, in which case you have to do a draw here, do exactly what you said. But the other approach is, and we'll get into it in a few minutes' time, but we'll wait until later for that, is it's Jay White Swerve, a rematch of that bout we saw a couple of weeks ago. And if that's the approach you're doing, well then Swerve pretty much has to win today, because otherwise that eliminates Roosh if it's a draw. I said that incorrectly earlier. If it's a draw, Roosh is eliminated. Right. One of them loses, then Roosh still has a chance. But Jay White also, I think, has to lose tonight. So it is getting quite confusing, to be honest with you now.
A draw brings Jay White into play.
It does, but a loss brings Jay White and Roosh into play. So then there's two factors if there's a loss.
Which I do understand, but at the end of the day, I do not mind it coming down to sort of Moxley, Jay White, and Swerve in the gold division, because those are the three names that stood out the strongest headed into the tournament. And story-wise, looking at those three battling it out and the muddiness that the draw provides in that storyline, to me, is worth, unfortunately, eliminating Roosh from contention.
It's just the case that we're going to have to... I mean, presumably that'll be the main event, so at least Roosh's match tonight will matter. And then I guess there's only then one more match we'll be seeing from Roosh. So I guess it's not that bad. I guess it's not that bad to have one match where it doesn't matter. But we'll get onto the not mattering stuff in a minute. But before we get into that, I want to get your thoughts on this one, Carter. What are you thinking going into tonight? This match, Jon Moxley, Swerve Strickland, the plumber, as your cousin likes to call him. Well, how are you feeling?
Well, the plumber is not a big fan of John bleeding all over the place, but I mean, he's great. I mean, he embodies AEW like as his personality, his hard hitting style. I'd put Eddie Kingston up there in terms of embodying the company, but I'm looking for a draw or a loss here. I will say that Swerve I mean, me and Clark have attended a insane amount of AEW events. I might just be speaking for myself there, but I mean, for Wrestle Dream and Full Gear, Swerve brought the house down. I would say he maybe had the biggest pop out of everyone. So I do see this tournament as a way to put Swerve over, but I think it's a little bit it's too early to bury Jay White like that. I mean, he was just challenging for the title. So I think there's going to be a draw or a loss somewhere in here to keep Jay White in play, just because it makes no sense to bury him after building him up so much. I think he's better than that. I think you gotta give Jay White a shot. I think he's just as good as all these guys. And yeah, so I'm picking Jay White over Roosh. And I'm in the Bang Bang gang. I do represent Bullet Club Gold, so I gotta there's a lot of bias there, but yeah, I think it's going to be a great match, though. Really good match. I do like Clark's prediction a lot. That was a very, very colorful prediction from our co-worker over there.
I want to make it clear, Carter. You might be in the Bang Bang gang, but I was breathing with the Switchblade before any of you were. Right? I'm the founder of that club. All right, so get in line, get in line. But what about you, Soul? Tonight, this huge match in the Gold League. Who will be walking out as well? Probably winning the group, I guess.
I think with Swerve and Mox, I don't think these two guys could bring a match of the year quality match tonight. I think that's something we could absolutely see. And I feel like if you're wanting to go into this Continental Classic final, because I know they have finals of each division, the Gold and the Blue League, you want it to be having someone going in that looking like an absolute beast. So I honestly think Swerve is going to either pin Mox clean or submit him tonight in that match. Because I feel like if you want to make Swerve like the ace, as he says, Moxley's the heart and soul of the whole company. If you break that, you're the biggest guy in there at that point. I mean, I would take that. I would love to see that with the whole final things, because I know it's going to be at World's End. I feel like Swerve has to be in contention for that. And another one I would do for storyline purposes is have it be Swerve and Eddie in the full finals. I mean, that just makes sense. I feel like a lot of people would agree with that. But yeah, tonight we're coming. I think Mox and Swerve are absolutely going to, bring the house down.
Yeah, so I 100% agree with your take there. That's exactly what I think's going to happen. Swerve gets the win tonight. Swerve Jay White in the semifinals, and then in the final, Eddie Kingston, Swerve Strickland, with Swerve going over and being that first Triple Crown champion. I know how badly we all want to see Swerve as champion, but I feel like they have some as AEW champion, but I feel like they have something else planned for MJF, losing that belt, not Swerve, unfortunately. But at least it is something for Swerve. And hopefully, this is treated as like a second, world championship. Maybe if they do a proper brand split between Dynamite and Collision. The possibilities of that does get me excited. That one is for sure. But, listen. Clark, every week, at least once a week, me and you are sitting here on this podcast talking the AEW Women's Division.
Mostly
a division
Wednesdays.
Mostly
on Wednesdays. I said mostly on Wednesdays. Sometimes on Saturdays. Sometimes on Saturdays.
Collision too, yeah.
Sunday occasionally.
Yeah. But here's the thing. While we're sitting here, I think this AEW Women's Division is so talented. I really, really do. I feel like people are making excuses for it without just acknowledging how many great talents are in this division. They're using that argument from 2020 that the women's division just isn't stacked enough. When since then so many great names have come in to the company, right? And one of those big names was Ruby Soho. When Ruby Soho came into the company, AEW made a huge deal about it. Last week on Dynamite, Riho returned and got face-to-face with Toni Storm. Riho, the first AEW Women's Champion. This is what I want to say. That right there. Tonight, Ruby Soho returning, Riho returning, and straight away facing Ruby Soho in a random match when, Rio's problem is with Toni Storm, who Ruby Soho also has a problem with. It's not like they're aligned. This thing makes absolutely no sense, but that isn't even my issue with it. My issue with it is, would they do this with the men's division? The answer is absolutely not. If, likes of Hangman Page, Kenny Omega, a former AEW men's world champion returned, would they chuck them in against one of the division's top stars in a random match the first week they come back? No, they wouldn't, right? Because they put a lot more thought into the men's division than that. Why was this storybook today? Because they just wanted to, have a match, a return match of Riho, and they were like, well, Ruby Soho's not doing anything. Let's just throw this on the card. They don't treat the men's division in the same way. And listen, when AEW started, they threw insult after insult after insult at the WWE women's division. And sometimes, rightfully so. But guess what? They've now done those exact same things. How many pay-per-views have the women main evented in AEW? 0. How many pay-per-views have the women main evented in WWE since AEW started? I think it's 3 or 4, right? And it's not even that. If you look at AEW Dynamite, how many women have main evented AEW Dynamite compared to WWE's weekly show, it's the exact same thing as well, right? In fact, this year, WWE have had more women main event their shows than AEW have in their history, right? And that's not the only thing. I'm not just saying AEW think the women's title is below the men's title. I'm also saying that they believe that it is below the men's international and TNT championship as well. Because guess what other titles have main evented it more than the AEW women's championship? The international and TNT. Both of those championships have main evented Dynamite, Collision, and pay-per-views. Pay-per-views! More than the women's championship has. I'm sorry, I'm just saying it. This AEW women's division has the talent to be on the same stage as the men, right? If this was the case in any other company, people would be calling out a lot harder than they currently are, okay? But this is just not on. AEW women need to be given a chance. Are we going to have to bring back that 2015 hashtag? Because it feels like we're there again. This to me is infuriating. It absolutely is.
I think you made a lot of good points, but you're just a little bit, the cows haven't come home yet. I get where you're coming from on a lot of it. I would also point to, a lot of people that have been critical of this aspect were the same that were critical of Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker main eventing Dynamite.
They've got so many other ones.
Whoa. I gave you your time.
All right, go.
So the same people that were critical of the cage match and the lights out match are critical now that we're not getting those matches. And that's something I find interesting, because it's neither here nor there. You look at Jade Cargill and what she did with the TBS title and the way that she dominated every time she was out there. And that loss, I've mentioned it 1,000 times, is gigantic. But I also think it's disrespectful to Ruby Soho and Riho to call this a random match. Ruby Soho is as big of a name as you have in that division, and it's Riho's return. To have her return immediately in a title match doesn't make sense either. She didn't earn it. That doesn't make sense either. There's no storytelling there.
Contenders match.
That would be great. And if this doesn't add to either or's run at the championship, then I will agree. But we haven't seen the match yet. And Riho, as you mentioned, is just now returning. I don't think this is the time to put our foot down. There has been a time. I do agree with so much of what you said in the last few months, where it is time to put your foot down and be like, this is a joke. Ruby Soho versus Riho, like you mentioned, one of the biggest signings in AEW women's division history against the first champion on the way to, how about if Toni Storm gets involved? How about if there's an encounter? Add to it. And if that execution happens, we're going to turn around tomorrow and say the exact opposite. We're going to go, thank goodness they got this one right. And we haven't given them a chance to get this one right. I agree with you. It is starting to look bad, but there was also a time where it wasn't that same way. It did not feel like this. This is a thing that's happened over the course of now months, of course, 6 to 8, 10 months, whatever you'd like to call it, where this narrative is something that we've strongly discussed on this show. Of course, I've been with you on much of it, right? The random booking and all of that. Ruby Soho Riho for a return. Ruby Soho having the connection to Toni Storm because of the Outcast thing. That storyline is dead. I get it. But there is a way to involve Toni Storm either before or after this match to have a really high quality women's wrestling match if given the time between Riho and Ruby Soho, two unbelievably good performers and athletes. And we haven't seen the match yet. And there isn't necessarily. So Riho, we've talked at length about how great Shinsuke Nakamura has turned around his current trajectory in the WWE with the subtitles thing. Riho is not in a position to cut an "I'm back" promo. She's never been. That isn't really a choice. And so to have her return against a talent the caliber of Ruby Soho, I think we're putting the cart before the horse here. This time, because we haven't seen the match yet.
Division.
And you don't
know.
They
wouldn't do
might.
it in the men's division.
They
wouldn't. They wouldn't. They never once done it. Okay, name a big signing, one that they've announced as a big signing in AEW.
Who was Andrade El Idolo's debut match?
Yeah, but that was a feud. They built it up. Then it's randomly the first week back, and it's not like I wouldn't
it was a squash against a jobber. They had him come in and squash a jobber. That was his debut match.
Was it? Well, even then, right?
It was Matt Seidel.
Yeah.
But even then, yeah, Matt Seidel, right? So let's say we have, I don't know, somebody name a mid-carder in the AEW Women's Division. I know they don't showcase many of them.
Nyla Rose.
Come on. Pardon?
Nyla Rose, Emi Sakura.
Nyla Rose. Yes, either of those. A random ass like that, I wouldn't be complaining. I'm complaining because it's a top star, right? Somebody who they're claiming. They wouldn't do it in Andrade being promoted as a big signing, right? That's actually a good example. They wouldn't have Hangman return first week randomly facing Andrade to build Hangman MJF, right? Listen, I'm going to say how this is going to go because I know how it's going to go because they do it every single time in this women's division. They do it for the TBS Championship and the AEW Women's Championship. What's going to happen is Ruby Soho versus Riho tonight. Riho will get the win and will lead to Riho versus Toni Storm in like a week or two. That's
I think
what
we're
it'll
missing
be.
the story here. I actually think Ruby is going to go over because they have been building Ruby of late with subtle hints. I think Ruby Soho goes over in this match against Riho, and maybe we see a triple threat, but Ruby Soho is the challenger against Toni Storm because number one, if you're going to tell a story in this women's division, Ruby Soho being the punk rocker against the 50s, against the boomer character, are you kidding me? Sign me up tomorrow. And to have her defeat the inaugural women's champion in the inaugural women's champion's return is who also has history and beef with Toni Storm. Is an easy stepping stone to one of the most logical and easy to tell stories in the AEW's women's division since the inception of the division. Ruby Soho, Toni Storm, given Toni Storm's current character, is the perfect rivalry. It's the perfect rivalry. So yes, to your point, if this is about Riho, then I agree, but I don't think it is. I'm confident it's not. I really think this is what leads us to Ruby Soho and Toni Storm, which fit like a glove.
Listen, Clark, if it leads to a triple threat, like you're saying, fair enough, actually. Then I won't mind it. But here's the thing: I've seen it before. I'll say I'm right. I'll say I'm right after the show today, right? But it happens time and time again, and time again. You come on this show, you break it down, you tell a story about it, and it's great, right? But here's the thing: you're telling these stories, they're not. They're not telling them. You're giving, a backstory which makes sense, which they should tell, right? And it's good. It's good too, but they're not telling them. And this is the issue, right? People and a lot of these people who are defending this stuff are doing this. They're trying to make these stories up. AEW aren't telling them, okay? They're putting less and less time into that women's division, right? And then every time they get called out for it, what do they do? They change the title. They change the champion. That's what they're doing. I mean, based on the amount of AEW women's champions we have, it's almost at the TNT number now. I mean, it's absolutely crazy in itself how much they flip-flop this championship.
I think we need Dr. Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa back as quickly as possible.
They're so many stars. Build some more. Okay, Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks were main eventing Monday Night Raw and pay-per-views less than 12 months after they were called up to the main roster.
Yes.
AEW have no excuse, right? You got to put people in that position for them to be able to get to that level and to be draws, okay? It's just, I don't understand. Every excuse that has been made for this has just been stupid, and quite frankly, like, it's just... the women's division is just, it's being overlooked like absolutely crazy, and it's not fair to the women in that division who are so talented. That's the thing here, right? They're not given the time because they're women, right? And they're not getting as high as numbers or whatever. Why aren't they getting those numbers? Because they're not being given time to develop and to get over with those crowds and the viewers at home. That's why, okay? But now, let's go to the comments, right? Let me calm down, let me take a breather. Because Bobby Petito is saying exactly what I was actually going to say. Riho should have wrestled against Mariah May. I understand she hasn't wrestled yet. They're building up that debut, whatever. But that would have been better. Because at least that would make sense. It's one of, Tony Storm's lackeys. Makes sense. And I'd be down for that too. I'd love to see it. Mariah May's great. But let's move on and let's talk about the Continental Classic once again, right? Let's get on a bit of a better note, because we have Jay White versus Jay Briscoe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That is correct. Yeah. The Battle of the Jays once again. Sorry. There's so many
not
Jays
Jay
in this
Briscoe.
division. It's
Jay Briscoe passed away.
Jay.
It's Mark Briscoe. Sorry. I had to.
That's the biggest whiff I think.
That's really bad.
Aka Reaver. We all get
That's
it.
bad. That's bad. It's written.
all good.
Everybody knows. I've got ADHD. My notes are an absolute mess, and it's got Jay Lethal written on the line underneath. That's why.
It's all good.
Jay White, Mark Briscoe, and then of course Roosh versus Jay Lethal. Two great matches, which I think they'll be. The question is, it's a tournament, and in round robin tournaments, you're going to get to the point where this is the case, right? In all the tournaments you do. But was it a bit too early, Saul, to have Mark Briscoe and Jay Lethal eliminated from this tournament? Or do you reckon they could have had maybe Briscoe get the win over Jon Moxley and then still keep these matches a little bit more interesting this week? What do you think about it?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, because, with wrestling in general and everything, there has to be winners and losers. Some people will eventually be knocked out of the tournament, and that's just the way it has to be. I honestly think I would love to see Roosh and Lethal go to maybe a draw or something like that, or a very close win for one or the other, just because, former Ring of Honor champions, they've got history. Could be pretty cool. But for Jay and Mark, like I said before, I think Jay should defeat Mark, and then maybe a Continental Classic in the future. Mark's whole storyline going into it was like he was defeated pretty much completely, and his story is basically going to get the title, which is the Ring of Honor title, which is a part of this Triple Crown. His brother held that. Sadly we lost him this year, and that could be a storyline of basically the validation of the brother getting the other brother's highest achievement. I think that's something we could definitely see from Mark.
No, I'd absolutely like that. Of course, Jay Briscoe, absolute legend. He is undoubtedly missed, and Mark Briscoe is now fighting in his honor. And yeah, I hope he does have a strong end to this tournament. Who knows? Maybe, tonight he could have a shock win over Jay White. I don't think he will, but I do think he will beat Jay Lethal next week. Because I'd be really upset if Mark Briscoe finishes the tournament on 0 points. But yeah, it's a good point. So in these round robin tournaments, it's you can't have everybody still be on level points at this stage. It's impossible. You need to tell a story. And this is the situation which we are currently in. But now let's talk about the other match, right? And in fact, this one muddies the waters a little bit. Because usually on Dynamite, we are used to seeing the Gold League, right? Whereas the Blue League usually stays on Rampage/Collision. Well, tonight, the Forbidden Door is opening. Because we talked about the massive match, Swerve Strickland, Jon Moxley, top of the Gold League. Well, we have a huge match in the Blue League tonight on Dynamite 2, because Brody King is taking on Andrade El Idolo, and the winner will go top of the Blue League. Of course, Bryan Danielson lost this past week on Collision, meaning the winner of King and Andrade, and both King and Andrade have, fought one less match each compared to the rest of the division, right? The winner of this match will be top. And that obviously is a huge privilege to have. I think CJ Perry being in the corner of Andrade El Idolo, not literally in this tournament, but, you know, being that voice in his ear coaching him is going to be what gets him over the line. I'm going for an El Idolo win. What about you, Carter?
Well, it's going to be tough to pick against Brody. He learned wrestling about 20 minutes away from here with the Santino Bros, and I grew up in mosh pits with him. But yeah, Andrade's hot right now after beating Danielson in that fantastic match on Saturday. I mean, it was great. Collision was amazing. I don't want to mention the ratings. I don't want to. We'll leave that for Uncle Dave. But these two actually, they had a singles match. Speaking of Collision, where Buddy Matthews came in on Brody King's behalf, and he was going to lose to Andrade. So I do think that's in the preview, courtesy of Mr. Tony Khan. I do think that Andrade is going to go over. But one thing to keep in mind is these are Eddie Kingston. Happy birthday, Eddie. Belated, I think it was yesterday. These are his championships that he put up, and he is getting buried a little bit in the points. So Andrade's hot. I do see him winning because he did previously dominate Brody. Shout out Santino Bros. But you know, what's going on with Kingston? Like, I mean, is there going to be a draw so Eddie Kingston can come back on points? You know, Bryan Danielson, he's tied with them on points with one extra match. I don't know. I lean towards Andrade dominating this match, but I do think it could be a draw just to make the point situation interesting.
Well, because it's the top two in each league that, you know, go forward to have a semi-final match. If one does win today between Andrade and Brody King, Eddie Kingston can still advance. It's just, in fact, yeah, I mean, either way, draw or win, he can technically still advance. A win would mean, if Andrade won, for example, it would mean he probably has a slightly higher chance, very, very simply because, of course, all those, you know, all those ties, it's easier. It's easier for them to only have to lose one instead of lose two, and for Eddie then to win both. It is, Clark, I know you hate doing maths, right? And this is one where you've got to do a lot of maths, but
a lot of math.
at least in the blue league, there's a lot of things open, and it's very interesting. I'm excited for this tonight, Brody King and Andrade, because like you said, Carter, there's a lot of, you know, movement in that blue league. Anybody can still win, apart from Daniel Garcia. Poor Daniel Garcia. But it's really exciting in the blue league. I'm enjoying it, that is for sure. And I'm also enjoying that dance, Carter, that Daniel Garcia dance. But now I'll stick with you, Carter, and let's talk about Hangman Page versus Roderick Strong. Hangman Page, right? He is somebody who I'm a big fan of. I've always been a big fan of. Same for Roderick Strong. I'm looking forward to the start of this feud, but I really hope this direction, which we'll go into, is after World's End, Hangman MJF. That I would love to see for the AEW World Championship. But what about you, Carter? How do you feel about this one? Roderick Strong, Hangman Page tonight, AEW Dynamite, winter is coming.
That's me.
You messed up with the camera cuts 2 days ago, Clark. I messed up today. Carter, I'm sorry about that.
That was a receipt, guys.
There's one thing I want to get out of my system. Adam! No, I mean, I've been, as I mentioned previously at the beginning of the show, I've been watching old CZW, old PWG. We forget how good of a singles wrestler Roddy Strong is. And I mean, the neck brace thing, I am all over the neck brace thing. I absolutely love it. This match it's going to be a treat. I mean, Hangman is coming off of that big match at the pay-per-view. I almost used expletives to describe how awesome it was. I mean, he's hot right now, just like Swerve. Those two had an absolute heater match, so they're coming in hot. And do we know the status on poor Roddy's injury? Is he 100% after Joe hurt?
His neck is unfortunately very, very broken. In fact, but I have heard, I've got some good news for you, Carter. I have heard that of Elton Prince, that thankfully he is visiting the same doctor that Elton Prince visited, who worked miracles Yes, boys! On Elton Prince. So I think he's going to be fine, thankfully. And I think Roderick Strong is going to be hashtag next strong very, very soon.
Very nice. Well, I got to lean on my boy Roddy then, ex-PWG World Champion. I mean, if that man's got a healthy neck, there's no stopping him. He's taking care of Adam Cole over there. We're very lucky to have him in, as Soul would say, the best wrestling company.
I'm losing a fight. I'm fighting a losing battle today, guys. Apparently with my own head as well, but right, okay, let's move on. Adam! Let's move on.
Adam!
Let's move on to you, Soul. What do you think? What are your thoughts heading into this match tonight?
I'm excited. I mean, Hangman Page is my favorite wrestler of all time, so anytime to him, I love to see it. Like, honestly, like, I know people give Hangman shtick, right? But he is my favorite wrestler. Like, above, like, again, like, people can be like, not Shawn Michaels or Brett or Triple H or Gilbert. Come on, what about the greats? I'm like, look, fair enough to you guys, but for someone who got into wrestling recently, the whole Hangman anxiety storyline in the pandemic era and defeating Kenny Omega was the most satisfying thing for me as a fan to see in wrestling. Just him winning that title brings me joy, and I love going back to watching that Full Gear and seeing that story reach its conclusion. So yeah, to see my favorite wrestler Hangman Page against someone like Roddy Strong, who is the honestly most entertaining guy to see, I'm excited for this. I really cannot wait to see what the outcome of this match will be. Will we see maybe an appearance by the Devil or something like that, or is someone going to interrupt Hangman? Maybe Swerve and we get Swerve free or something like that maybe down the line. I really am excited, not only just to see the match, obviously, but I feel like afterwards it's going to set up something big for World's End for these guys.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things there. Firstly, I hope you are right. I hope there's something big for them. But also, you mentioned your favorite wrestler ever being, Hangman Adam Page. I just want to make one thing clear, right? If anybody ever starts hating on somebody because of who their personal favorite wrestler is, I mean, that's just embarrassing if somebody hates on that. People can have opinions, right? Well, it's not like you're saying he's the best wrestler to ever live, right? It's your favorite. Oh,
yeah,
no.
I'm not doing that conversion now. Look, if you click that and put it on the Instagram, we'll see what the rest of the public universe
but no, I mean, people obviously will, but people are fickle, as Bryan Danielson said back in the day. But yeah, listen, you could, I mean, people's favorite wrestler can also change at different points in their life as well. Like, it's just, I think it's embarrassing whenever somebody starts hating on somebody because a current wrestler is their favorite wrestler of all time. Like, it's not that deep. It's not that deep whatsoever. I mean, Shard's not happy though, so he's hating on you because he is saying, why isn't it the Blue Meanie? He's the second GOAT next to Maven.
Look, like Blue Meanie's actually grand top there with Maven, but I'm thinking more of a Mikey Whipperick as well. He's sort of a GOAT.
Balls Mahoney.
Come on now, look, if we're gonna say that, we'll throw James Ellsworth and Santino Marella up there with the greatest of all time. We need a Mount Rushmore of the boys category. Them kind of. I mean, look, Allison, end of your award. I think that's a fair category.
Ellsworth would have been the worst matchup ever for Shawn Michaels. How do you hit the sweet chin music on a guy that doesn't have a chin?
Asking real hard hitting questions there, bud.
Would have been a nightmare matchup.
That was gold. Any man with two hands has a fighting chance, unless you're Cody because he has a cast. But now let's move on, and let's move on to you, Clark, because you might not be a fan of Cody and his former cast, but you are a fan of Hangman Adam Page. How are you feeling heading into this one?
I was delighted by Soul breaking down how much he loves Hangman Page, because I do too. And honestly, he's not my favorite wrestler of all time, but he's my favorite active wrestler. Does it weird me out that he's a couple years younger than me? Totally. Don't get old, guys. It's a curse. Don't do that. I had to look it up after. Like, you can't look up to a guy that's 2 years younger than you. That's goofy. But he's awesome. And I love the slight storytelling when it comes to this match, because you've got Roddy Strong, Adam, as we all like to say.
Oh.
Roddy Strong, who's been putting on our scale, on any scale, matches in the 4 to 5 star range for his whole career. As soon as he started yelling, Adam, guess what? He's entertaining too. Now it's both. And I love it. And you add the neck brace as well. And then you pair him against the most vicious lariat in all of professional wrestling right now, the buckshot lariat. I hope he knocks that head off of its shoulders, because there's nobody more susceptible to take a tough lariat than Roddy Strong at this point. With the bum neck, I love the subtle storytelling there. I hope it leads to an electric buckshot lariat. I have no doubt that Roddy Strong will sell it. I believe Hangman Adam Page wins this match. I don't know how Adam Cole is involved in this part of it, but down the road, we're going to see a lot of Adams and Maxes, and then Roddy will be involved, and I can't wait for that as well. It's, to me, Hangman Page, Swerve Strickland, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, names like that right this second in AEW are doing such great work. I don't want it to be overshadowed by some of the negatives that we've kind of discussed week in and week out over the last few months, because it is still great work. And then add in on top of that Christian Cage, Adam Copeland, and names like that. I know I'm not mentioning any women's wrestlers right now, unfortunately, Ben, which lends to your earlier points. Willow Nightingale, there you go. To me, this is a great, I hope it is the main event. And I really do believe Roddy Strong and Hangman can put on an absolute delight of a match. I hope that the neck injury and the idea of not only the dead eye, but also the buckshot lariat being two moves that target that very part of somebody's body. And I hope that they use the storytelling in ring, bell to bell in this match to tell that part of the story. And I'm excited to see what they can do with it. This is a canvas I think that both talented guys like Hangman and Roddy can really paint. And you have an opportunity to take advantage of a few things like the neck brace, the move sets, all of that on top of the connection to the Maxwell Jacob Friedman storyline, who's obviously still carrying the world title, as well as the Adam Cole storyline, who's partners with Max. There's a lot of factors at play. And I think in an exciting way on this one, this is the match I'm most excited about tonight. Oddly enough, I will say, I'm a fan of both performers. And I think this one actually makes sense given the timing. And I hope that we get to see some funk, for lack of a better term, like you know what I mean, some real storytelling and advance some stories in the ring, which AEW I do believe is actually very good at when executed properly. Yes,
but I mean, I want to say this though, right? When Soul said his favorite wrestler ever is Hangman Page, I didn't have an issue with it. When you said Hangman Adam Page is your favorite currently active wrestler, I didn't have an issue with it. But I have an issue with you now, because you said he has the best lariat in wrestling right now.
He does.
What?
He does.
Ishii! What's his name? Shingo Takagi.
They're very good. Hey, the Rainmaker. I would have gone Okada first if I was you. By the way, I'll argue for you.
Okada. Even his lariat comes nowhere near
the buckshot lariat with the delivery and the athleticism, and then the selling. I love the riding the ropes like a horse when he grabs him and holds him back as he flips out.
It's good.
And the delivery, the front flip, the lariat. The fact that he's a little bit dressed closer to Stan Hansen than any of the names that you named, who is the original lariat guy in my eyes. I'd give Hangman the nod. Okada 2 in my eyes. And then Ishii, great call. I would absolutely in the top 5, maybe 3. I
don't even mention Go Shiozaki. Have you seen his lariat? Honestly.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Okay.
It's beautiful. Now I will say this though, underrated name. Josh Briggs, sliding lariat.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
Butter. That's honorable mention.
Where did he learn his lariats from? Anyway, the other one as well. Actually, I'm making a call out. Right, Hangman Page, I'm inviting you to Clark's house to give him a buckshot lariat, but then I'm also inviting Ishii or Shingo Takagi to Clark's house as well to also give him a lariat and then to asking which one hurts more, because I'm telling you, it will not be Hangman Adam Page's.
I'm totally in. I'll stock the beers. I'm in. We'll grill out. That would be delightful. I've got the pool. Maybe I'll land in the pool on both. I'm thinking. I don't know how we set the ropes up for Hangman to do the flip, but I'm 100% in.
I don't know. We put some like beer cans together.
Maybe
or
like an
something.
NFL
Who
Sunday,
knows?
so we got entertainment. Yeah, no, that'd be fun.
Somebody create. I don't know. Somebody figure something out. Be creative, guys. We're meant to be creators, right? But thank you guys so much for watching the show today. If you did enjoy it, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe on YouTube, a cheeky 5 stars on Spotify, and a follow on Twitch makes my day personally. Thank you to Clark, thank you to Soul, and thank you to Carter for joining me here today. We will be back tomorrow, slightly later start time, 11 UK, 6 p.m. Eastern and 3 p.m. Pacific for Throwback Thursday. Charlotte, Clark, and Anthony will be breaking down AEW Dynamite and talking a little bit of throwback as well. We will see you guys then. Enjoy your night and enjoy Winter is Coming. Peace.